She also has experience dealing with China on the issue of trade and tariffs. Wendy, thank you so much for taking the time. Okay, so expectations are pretty low. That's been set by this administration, as we just heard from Elena. Is there any chance of a potential breakthrough that you think could happen from these talks, just along the lines of restoring some sort of normalcy as it relates to trade between these two economic powers?
Well, I'm not expecting any breakthroughs, but I think there will be conversations about different scenarios for de-escalating tension and unwinding some of these tariffs. What I suspect is they'll have these conversations. Each side will go back to their capitals, and perhaps an announcement could be made, weeks, days later. But the final decision announcement, particularly in the U.S., will be made by President Trump.
Talk to us about Trump's sort of negotiation style here, because obviously he's throwing around this idea that maybe, we might see 80% tariffs, but I'll leave that up to Scott Bessent. That's something that he said on social media. I mean, obviously 80% tariffs are still crippling for both economies. You still can't do business at those kinds of levels. But in terms of the strategy of floating that number out there in advance of these talks, what sort of impact does that have on negotiations, do you think?
Well, I think it does have an impact. Number one, it suggests that Secretary Bessent has his mandate to do what he thinks is necessary in Geneva. And second, it seems to be kind of playing with China a little, in that China it needs to think coming to Geneva what it is prepared to do. So I think this introduces a little more uncertainty and kind of mixes things up going into the Geneva talks. But let's be honest, I think both sides are coming to these talks and they each think that they have a stronger hand. The U.S. is looking at the Chinese economy and growth rates, projected to go down. And China is looking at the U.S. and thinking Trump is desperate for deals at this point, given all the economic pressures on him. So that's going to be another dynamic that I think will be very evident during these discussions.
Wendy, Zane just laid out a potential strategy from the U.S. perspective. I'm just wondering, how much do you read into China's strategy, given that today, of all days, they released data showing that shipments out to the U.S. declined by 21% since these tariffs have been announced, but were also supplemented, in a sense, by shipments to other Southeast Asian countries, and in a way, sort of creating a new trade relationship, bypassing the United States, suggesting, hey, we can get along just fine without the United States, at least for now. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I thought that the data was interesting, but let's remember that the U.S. market is key for China, so I wouldn't underestimate the impact those numbers have on China. But also, let's be honest, too, Southeast Asian countries and European countries in particular that became the destination for increased Chinese exports are also under a lot of pressure to start restricting these Chinese imports because they are displacing workers and companies in those countries. And so I think China, while they got through the data this week, I think there are a lot of underlying currents and trends that don't work to China's advantage here.
Just in terms of what else might be on the table, I mean, obviously they are going to talk about the headline number in terms of tariffs and what the rate should be, but also in terms of concessions. I mean, obviously electronics was initially carved out as potential concessions by the Trump administration. What else? What other sort of concessions and carve-outs might we see in the interim until a final trade deal is announced?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I'll be watching to see is whether either side has preconditions that they set before they're prepared to even dismantle some of their tariffs. The U.S. has talked about wanting to have evidence that China is moving on our fentanyl concerns. China keeps talking about the U.S. needing to show sincerity. So that's going to be an important aspect of these talks. But look, I think both sides are feeling the pressure. They're coming to Geneva. probably wanting to explore some de-escalation. And I would hope also that they start embarking on in an informal way on how both sides could actually negotiate some kind of accommodation going forward.
You remember that the first meeting between U.S. and Chinese officials under President Biden, when he first came into office, was also quite tense. I mean, not to this level in terms of the issues at play, but they had quite a tense meeting that was not viewed as very productive at the time. Let's hope this one goes a little better for all of our sakes. Wendy Cutler, thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Well, a new